Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone that's joined us. Intel and Geo Talks presents this very special webinar on next-gen communication beyond voice, video, and data in association with Moneycontrol and CNBC TV 18. Now, the subject is something that is very relevant in today's time. When we're talking about next-gen communication beyond the three modes that seem to be the most obvious modes of communication, voice, video, and data, what do we really mean? What does it take to ensure that our communication is seamless and at the same time intuitive? We are now headed beyond the world of 4G and looking at an era of 5G. And 5G is, in a sense, going to change the way we talk, the way we communicate, the way we read, the way we even operate in our own homes. So there are various ways where our lives are going to change. But how will corporations handle that? How are corporations in our country looking at what needs to be changed, what needs to be enhanced, what are the modes in which we can collaborate and ensure that 5G is not just something that is relevant and that just gives us great technology and allows you and me to communicate better. It'll also give us better education. It'll also give us inclusive growth, and how exactly can corporates help in building the nation. Now, joining me to discuss these very questions and go into the nitty-gritties of what this means, what really is AI and ML, machine learning, big data, analytics, why is it relevant to our industries? I have with me a very, very esteemed panel, so no one needs any introduction, but I'm going to do that anyways. Joining in is Kiran Thomas, the President and Director of Reliance Industries. With him is Anish Shah, the President and Head of Information Technology of Reliance Jio. Joining us from Intel are two beautiful ladies who are joining us from across different countries. Nivruti Rai, the Country Head of Intel India, Lynn A., the Vice President of Data Center Group and the General Manager of the Visual Infrastructure Division and NPG Strategy of Intel Corporation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to start. There are just so many points to discuss. All right, so my first question to Anish. Anish, we are here to talk about how 5G, how next-gen communication is going to change the way we interact. Let's begin by discussing how do you believe that the areas of machine learning, information technology, how are various sectors enabling the transformation that 5G is going to bring in?
First of all, thank you, Kritika. Let me first start with explaining what are the foundation and the fundamentals of even starting any of these terms. One of the important foundation is consumption of data, and so far Jio has created the consumption economy. I think before Jio had actually started their services, the data consumption was around 0.2 exabyte per month, and after Jio it has gone to 8 exabyte per month. In fact, in the first 6 months of Jio's launch, the consumption went almost 5 times. And if you go in the details, you will realize that the primary consumption of data is largely driven video-based services, streaming services. In fact, after Jio has started the services, most of the streaming applications have become very popular. The likes of YouTube, the likes of Jio TV, Jio Cinema, Hotstar, Prime, Netflix, name a few, and they are all have become very popular, and all because of the foundation which has been laid, which is the connectivity. In fact, 70 to 80% of the traffic is contributed by using all these video and streaming services. If you look at the enterprise side of the business, then it is all the SaaS applications, the collaborative tools, the video conferencing services which people have started using it, is all because of this foundation which was laid in 4G. Now let us look at 5G, because we are talking about 5G. The real power of 5G mobile technologies will be in the ability to expand beyond mobile phone applications. Mobile phone applications have been now there and people have started using it. But we are now talking of Internet of Things. We are now talking of many more rich applications, rich services which can be driven on 5G. In fact, Jio's entire strategy of fiber to the home complemented with 5G will be in the forefront to provide coverage, low latency, ultra high speed network. And what this 5G will cater to, if that is the question we have to answer, of course, it will provide enhanced mobile broadband, but more importantly, it will provide ultra reliable and low latency communication. In fact, it will enable massive machine type communication, which is IoT or IoT based services. In fact, Jio's industrial IoT, public IoT, and home automation will add to connecting the things. While consumers will gain from 5G's high speed data connectivity, which is obvious and that is something which everybody expects, but it is actually the IoT that will drive the core of 5G business. Talking about agriculture, let's talk about agriculture or livestock instance or connected animals, which will give real-time access to the animal's health or live feedstock. And this will actually yield into the maximization of their yield and lifespan of the livestock. In the context of smart factories with connected equipments, smart supply chain, and availability of data across the factory ecosystem actually will lead to lower inventory cost and optimizing energy consumption, which is very, very important. And these are few examples, but there are many you can really cite. On the consumer side, 5G will bring the ability to stream a true 4K and 8K content. In fact, it will provide outstanding AR and VR experience across multiple devices, delivering highly personalized media content and experience. And I believe this are just the starting. And as we go further, and as the technology gets advanced, be it media, be it artificial intelligence, or be it cloud technologies, these are all going to actually enable all support using 5G.
Okay, some very interesting points there. So just picking up from that point that Anish was making, Nivriti, let me come to you. What do you believe, the various points that Anish made with respect to, the breakup of what 5G really entails. But, what role specifically do you think that AI and cloud computing will play in changing the infrastructure that is currently existing in India? And what role will Intel play in accelerating that vision?
Okay. So, firstly, I completely agree with Anish Bhai that connectivity is going to be a key enabler. What Reliance has done is laid the complete infrastructure, the generation of requirement of services, providing data. They have done a huge role in laying 4G. But like Anish Bhai said, 5G is going to be completely different. The reason 5G is different is not just the evolution of technology of 4G going to 5G. It is actually a revolutionary technology. It will not only enable phones, but a plethora of activities and value add usages and services that 5G will create. Few of them, I will just like to name, will be factory automation, smart city, intelligent retail, and you name it. And so it's going to be way beyond phones. Now, coming to the question that you asked me about AI and cloud, let me start with what the market is saying. Market is saying in the next 5 to 7 years, you will see so many digital services, come to existence and double in value what is happening today. So whether it is e-commerce, whether it is, digital advertisements, and then, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, a lot of these will require the connectivity, which, I completely agree is going to be a key enabler. Now, to enable some of these market trends, what are the foundational technologies? You mentioned some of them. 5G, Anish Bhai talked a lot about it. I believe the next one is going to be AI and edge. These will be critical inflection technologies that will drive the growth for our country and the world. I also believe this is an opportunity for technologists to look at these technologies, put them together into a solution, create a platform in a manner such that these services can be enabled. So I also want to highlight, is this primarily, world, or is this also India? I want to tell you that in our country, India, we have about 63 some million MSMEs. I really believe that these MSMEs will go through a massive transformation through technologies like AI, Edge, 5G, all of them enabled through cloud. Like Anish Bhai said, exabytes of data. The world has seen zettabytes of data over the last few years only, and half of the data is coming in the last 4 to 5 years. So if a lot of this data has come in the last 4 to 5 years, I also talked about 63-ish million MSMEs that India has. These MSMEs employ roughly 40% of the working population. That generates about 30% of the GDP. Now imagine if these MSMEs, which employ 40% of Indian working population, are connected and have a platform that enables them to get services with 5G, with AI and Edge, all enabled through cloud. The ability to double, triple their contribution to the economy is going to happen. Now, what role does Intel have in all of this? I believe the partnership of Reliance and Intel is a beautiful yin and yang. What I look at Reliance is to drive services to reach the masses, not just the 1.3 billion people in India, but reach the world. But what Intel does is to look at technologies which have the ability of compute, the ability of storage, the ability of graphics, the ability of connectivity, the ability of memory, and put all of these nodes into a cluster and create the data center. Now, I will tell you what excites me about Intel is, if it were not for Intel, I assure you, you will have to work with an AMD, you will have to work with, a Xilinx, you will have to work with, an NVIDIA, you will have to work with a Broadcom, and, many memory companies, Samsung, Micron, and name it. What is the advantage of Intel? Intel has all these components in their portfolio, including AI with very many different form factors. Now, yes, we have the portfolio products. What is the advantage? The advantage is we can look at the entire data center and optimize for power, optimize for performance, optimize for the usage of components. So we have something called resource director technology. So I will be able to leverage a cache here, and I will be able to leverage a compute here, and I will have the intellect to basically leverage for a certain workload, a certain node.
Okay, well put. Lynn, I want to come to you specifically on points that Anish and Nivruti have raised. Lynn, when you look at the ecosystem as it stands, Reliance and Intel are working to enhance and enable transformation across industries, as both Anish and Nivruti
need attention. So we're so excited to be partnering and being able to bring the tools and the platforms to small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses, and tons of creators of services and experiences that we're having some constraints. Everything's remote, but at the same time, that allows us to have an opportunity to create in ways that we couldn't do before.
Okay. Let me bring Kiran into the conversation. Kiran, how do you see the emergence of 5G and edge computing technology relevant to Reliance Jio now versus what it was, say, even 1 or 2 years ago? While there has been a lot of changing technology, Reliance Jio has ensured that it's been ahead of the curve. So now, what is the relevance of these areas? And, what's your experience on how or on what the challenges are going to be or how seamless this process is going to be?
No, once again, thank you for having me here. I think if the last 4 years has shown us something, it is that the acceleration of converting everything to digital has really taken place. So in 2016, we used to say jokingly almost that everything that can possibly go digital will become digital, and largely what we are seeing worldwide is in a way that prediction coming true. Combined with obviously everything become digital, the other big trend that is happening right now and which is at a fast inflection point is that software and algorithms are making just about everything and anything and everybody that much smarter. And Jio and Reliance made this bet that if we connect the country, connect everyone, every place and everything, and if we provide the other ingredient, which is devices, smart devices, and we have examples like Jio Phone, and now of course when you get into the home, we have smart IoT devices and consumption devices and a lot of other areas where we are making those investments to provide those tools in the hands of consumers and businesses, and then creating the smart services on top of it. I think the need for data is just gonna explode. 5G is the fastest way to bring about that transformation, while fiber eventually will maybe catch up to it and continue to power even richer technologies into the future. Talking briefly about edge computing now. So, when the consumption was less, and this is true not just for digital packets, but even physical packets, if you look at traditional supply chains, how it were built, when you have very less consumption, you want to centralize your supply because it's very much more efficient to serve the small fragments of demand which are spread across from a few central locations. And that is how the world has evolved. We have these large data centers which are still powering the applications and the content which are being given to where these fragments of consumptions exist. But that reality has changed very, very quickly. And what we are really finding is consumption is really heating up all across. And when that happens, to still continue to serve content from a few central locations becomes highly cost prohibitive because you have to create huge capacity in those few locations, and you could have done much better by pushing the content and pushing the services towards where the consumption is actually happening. And the second thing is it also creates in a way a big risk, because if one of those locations were to fail, or nowadays with cybersecurity and other things, if it were to be compromised in some way, you are then talking about a huge outage of services across many, many millions of customers possibly. So from both these perspectives, more and more what we are finding is that we are pushing, it makes sense to push both services and content further out towards the edge, closer to where the requirement is, such that we are actually having a resilient and distributed infrastructure which is always available. And even if there's an outage, God forbid, it's only a very small pocket of consumption which gets impacted.
All right. Nirvati, I want to kind of build on the point that Kiran was making. As Kiran was saying that, at some point we are talking about how everything and anything is going to be digital. I want to ask you about 2 points. This experience in the last couple of months, as Kiran was saying, has changed the way we operate. I mean, we are coming to our viewers from the comfort of our homes and our laptops. So how do you think the response has been based on your experience working across service providers, working across corporates and SMEs? And as well as MSMEs. And aside from that, the point that Kiran was making was critical, that there are a lot of risks involved as well. So how can Intel and Jio help in ensuring that those risks are easily mitigated?
Definitely. So I want to start with, what Kiran said about AI. I truly believe that today the world is just scratching the surface of use case of AI. Today, honestly, I'm very fond of AI because I have been part of actually building the inference and training solutions for Intel, me and my team here. I really believe what this last few months have taught me, and Kiran and everybody else said it, that the push of technology adoption has just accelerated. And AI will play a huge role. While 5G with 10 gigabits per second, lot of bandwidth requirement, lot of use cases, tells me all the more, whether it is at edge, whether it is network, whether it is, the cluster of my nodes in my data center, everywhere AI will be required. So I truly believe that India has an opportunity to build a platform for AI, which can be a national level platform. So just to give you an example, we have unified payment interface, and I know, Nandan Nilekani is working on the health platform. What Intel has done, and we have accelerated over the last few months, is we are working with industry, we are working with academia, and a lot with the government, and our intention is to build a national level AI platform, just standardize the way things come in and things go out. On top of that, identify 3 or 4 use cases. What we've done is we've looked at health, education, smart mobility, and we have pushed to look into agriculture. So what we are doing is, on top of that platform, we are creating curated and annotated data sets of these 4 areas. Health is a critical part of it. Now, what do we do next? We make open and secure data exchange platform on top of the base platform. So open and secure data can be leveraged by MSMEs, data can be leveraged by large companies, and we have ways of figuring out how the funding is going to happen for India. The third thing we will do, and we have already started doing, is build unique and foundational algorithms and tools to leverage these verticals and provide solutions based on the data we had. Now, on top of this, we have this open access that startups can leverage, innovators from large academic institutes, small academic institutes, big enterprise, everybody can leverage. And the intention is to be able to solve national level problems that the country and the world sees, and drive this. And I'm counting on Reliance and my government partnership. We are doing some fantastic things with CSIR. I got onto the board of CSIR. I'm driving the technology subcommittee, and my goal is to basically push these foundational technologies such that they can be made available to these smaller companies who don't have the resources that some of the larger companies have, and open India for the world, and leverage all possible people, provide new business paradigm.
Okay, Anish, I very quickly want to, before I get some closing comments, and then we can bring in the audience questions as well. Anish, you had made this point, and that's a very exciting point about how AI, edge computing is going to change various industries, various sectors. It's no longer just about communications and telecom. So I want to get your perspective, Anish. From a very a layman's perspective, how is Reliance Jio and Intel, how are they working to change lives when it comes to just the day-to-day interactions? How can you give us use cases which will be most relevant?
I think before that, I would like to say that unlike 4G and the previous generation technologies, 5G is expected to embrace and support specialized use case across all kinds of industries. I think some of them were mentioned, like manufacturing, energy, utilities, healthcare, pharmaceutical, transportation, logistics, agriculture. I mean, you name it. These are all specialized use case where 5G is definitely going to embrace. So from core to edge, to unlock full potential of 5G in business and society, both of us can really co-create and co-partner that. Second thing is, Intel and Jio has a lot of complementary capabilities, which can actually add a real value in the area of 5G, AI, and cloud infrastructure. Example, they have a technical strength in compute, like she mentioned, Niruti mentioned about Habana, the entire AI infrastructure. They will actually be of real importance to add value to Jio's network. And one more thing I would say is that to do all these things, what you need is a large compute infrastructure, be it at core or at edge. And to build this at a very cost efficient way, and that's the geo way, we have to really look at our expansion in data center, our expansion in network, and that too in a cost efficient manner. I believe this is where Intel and Geo can definitely come and collaborate or co-create a lot of things here. Something which is I would say designed in India but available to the globe, to the world. That is what I would say, something which is the opportunity lying between Intel and Geo. And of course, several use cases, as it was mentioned, so I don't want to repeat it, but these are all kinds of use case in smart home, in smart cities, in smart work, which will be automatically enabled. I think last 5 years we have seen plethora of apps on mobile, and next, I would say 5 years, you will see services which are going beyond just mobile. And these are all going to be 5G enabled services.
Okay, as I was saying, it's not just about communication providers anymore, but the fact of the matter is that things have changed for communication service providers. So, Lena, I have a question to you. What do you believe are the challenges and opportunities that you are seeing as things stand for communication service providers on visual cloud? And how could communication service providers overcome these challenges and, in fact, democratize from it?
So I think that it's such a great opportunity because the communication service providers have so much to be proud of. They have democratized communications and information. And I believe that, first of all, if you look at the AI trend, and I like to think of AI in two simple ways. AI takes a lot of very complicated information and it tells you insights. What is important to know in all of that breadth of information and data coming in? And what do you do about it? And so 5G and AI can both allow the communication service providers to provide resilience in their infrastructure, to be able to know what is going to be an incredibly popular piece of content in a local area. And so then they can put it at the edge, they can cache it, they can work point to point, and they understand a little bit more through those insights. What will I need to have as a resource? And that's just their own resource management, to make sure that the people who need the information, who need to connect, who need to communicate, whether it's between themselves and another individual or machine to machine, they have what they need at that time. And that is such a huge democratization for people to be able to get access to what inventory is available or what resources are coming in on the next shipment. If you're working on one small stream, you don't need $1 million instance. But if you are doing weather models and weather prediction, then maybe you do. And so the partnership with Reliance and Intel really comes down to, what are we trying to help solve together? What platforms are we trying to build together to give the tools to other problem solvers to really unleash solutions that we have never seen before?
Very eloquently put, Lynn. We have a couple of audience questions coming in. So let me begin with the first one, which is for Kiran. Kiran, the first audience question is that how can startups and small medium enterprises that have limited capital access upgrade their processes to be able to access this high-end technology?
If you look at startups to begin with, that is really where we expect the innovations to come from, because these are the people with the ideas. These are the people with cutting edge skills. They have the energy and the passion for certain areas. And that's really what creates a startup. But if you look at what really pinches them, where does it really cost them? First of all, to get connectivity has always been a problem, because these are the people who need access to rich cloud services. These are the ones who are really on the forefront of writing very powerful algorithms, which sometimes may require spinning of many instances, etc., in the cloud. So connectivity itself has been a problem, which largely we believe that we are on the way to solving. A lot of progress has been made, but still a long way to go. and there are technologies which will enable that. But now, when you come to cloud services, I think even Anish mentioned just a while back that this has really transformed the whole everything as a service kind of an approach to getting access to very powerful tools. If you look at maybe a decade back when this whole cloud movement started, at the time people were only talking about getting access to servers or storage or some such basic service, and a lot of the other heavy lifting people who were developing applications had to do on their own. But if you go to any one of the major cloud providers today and just go down the list of services that they provide, everything from mobile services to big data analytics to AI algorithms, you name it, more and more every day. If you go there, you will find another component available as a service. So all in all, I think at least in India, we have an opportunity to create a unique model where we are not trying to displace small and medium businesses, but rather we are trying to embrace them, and we can really prove how technology can create a more participative and inclusive growth, which may become a template for many countries globally.
Okay, we have the second audience question coming in, but Kiran made some very critical points. I was wondering if Lynn, if you could just add to that, because we have a lot of SMEs and MSMEs asking this question. That the fact of the matter is that they have limited capital access, and that limits them from being relevant, from being competitive. What would you say to them on the same point? How do you access high-end technology and remain?
The beautiful thing about the model that Intel and Reliance are bringing together, and that Reliance's ability to connect people brings, is that those small and medium businesses can get access to the resources and the same kind of infrastructure that multinational companies have access to. If you look at, we went through our first wave, which is basically getting the basic connectivity, getting things digitized, getting the industries in a more digital format. Well, the tools that Reliance and Cloud and Edge are bringing, along with connectivity, basically mean that any startup, any small business, any medium business can have at their disposal the exact same tools of these global multinational companies, along with help and with consultants and with assistance at really understanding how do they put the building blocks together in a way that is going to solve the problem for them in the most efficient way. So it's an amazing, amazing opportunity that Cloud and Reliance are bringing for all types of industries. It really has democratized the ability to run a startup, the ability to run a small business, and having the same tools that multinational companies with tons more capital have access, and being able to leverage it in the same way. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. Anish, the second audience question is to you. The question is that since the adoption of 5G in India is still a few quarters, if not a few years away, how can Indian corporates stay relevant versus their peers?
So, first of all, I would like to correct that it is not few quarters. For Jio, it is few months. I think 5G, we are already started a lot of work. I mean, in the back, and probably you will see some of this happening in couple of months, not quarters. That's a correction. But I think our vision for connectivity is not just on one pillar of 5G. It is on a multiple pillar. Like I mentioned, that we are already expanding and enhancing our 4G capacity. Because while 5G is required, we can't not enhance our 4G capacity. So that work continues. The second important thing is that while 5G services and 5G related platforms are going to get developed, we are also using narrowband IoT to connect and power IoT devices. That is something which is already ready. Third thing is fiber to the premise. Like I mentioned, we have a complementary services 4G and fiber and 5G. So fiber to the home, fiber to the premise, fiber to small business is something which we have now accelerated. In fact, post whatever we started in the initial part of the COVID, now that acceleration has gone past through our basic requirement of adding more and more customers, and that is something which is going to continue, which will augment, or which will definitely help when we are rolling out our 5G. So I would say not few quarters, few months, and while it is few months, we are still on our task, and they can all continuously see what's happening in this space. This is a very exciting time and very exciting space for Watch.
Okay, so viewers, that's Anish giving you a big headline there. It's just 5G is just a few months away when it comes to Geo. Okay, so Nivriti, the third question to you.
Okay, sure.
Will partnership, alliances, and differentiated IP be critical in enabling companies to adapt to technology and stay ahead of the curve? Let me get your view on that.
Is to come up with customized solution which meet the needs of Reliance and the goals that they are driving. And we are treating Reliance as one of our premier customers, and we are using the same process and model where we have a small team which is focused for Amazon. It's sitting where Amazon is sitting. We have a focus team for Microsoft. Similarly, we're building a small team which is going to be focused just for Reliance. We will customize our solutions for Reliance needs and build a solution that meets their need, which means that there will be customized IP, customized software, and I'm even going to the extent of saying customized silicon and platform. So absolutely, IP is going to be critical in vision and in meeting the goals that Reliance has set up, and that's what Intel will power.
Okay, so Kiran, let me ask you to add to that. How necessary and how critical are partnerships and alliances, and like Nivriti was saying, differentiated IP be in any company to stay ahead of the curve.
No, I think in a nutshell, you have mentioned the two themes which really underlie the strategy for what we call Geo Platforms Limited, which is now the umbrella company under which all these initiatives are being driven. And when you talk about differentiated IP, I think our approach is, like we mentioned earlier, to really go after sector by sector, create these solutions to prove them in India, and really, I think Nivriti mentioned earlier that even an edge case for the world is really of significant scale in India, and many of those edge cases we have to deal with on a daily basis. So it's a really robust marketplace to go and fine-tune the solutions that we are trying to create. And whether you take telecom, whether you take media, commerce, financial services, we mentioned education, health, agriculture, these are all important sectors where there is a crying need for solutions of this nature, and that is really the charter for Geo Platforms Limited. And that intellectual property that thus gets created in India for India and proven at India scale, and with all the corner cases that we have to deal with in India, can then become original intellectual property which can even travel outside of the country and be relevant to other markets globally. That is the hope. And in the final analysis, I also mentioned that another aspect of partnership, which possibly doesn't get that much attention, is the core philosophy of Geo and generally in Reliance, that we have to build a business model which is going to be quite different from how large companies have operated traditionally. So whether you take media or commerce or financial services, agriculture, education, our view is that there is a very rich, I would say, capability set available in the small and medium businesses of this country. And it will be irresponsible to displace them, to dismantle them, and try to take over and to outcompete or try to outcompete them. And hopefully this participative model will be a template that will be a model to the rest of the world as to how we can use technologies for a more inclusive and participative development, not just of the big companies, but also of the small companies who in many cases form the bedrock of those respective economies.
Absolutely. So it's been a very, very enriching discussion. Thank you so much, audience, for sharing your questions. I'm going to get very quick comments coming in from everyone, just closing comments from all. Let me start with you, Lynn. They say that 5G is perhaps going to be one of the biggest revolutions in India and the world in the last decade or so. Would you agree to that? And, from the key takeaways of our 1 hour conversation, what do you think lies ahead, and how prepared is India to be able to embrace the opportunity?
So 5G is going to be a game changer because it supports such an incredible diversity of different uses and needs. So it is so flexible, it's not one size fits all. And 5G enables this rich and diverse ecosystem on the same base platform to really use the same core technology and solve unbelievable breadth of different challenges and opportunities. And I think that for India, it is an amazing, diverse, rich, and large opportunity space that, quite frankly, I think 5G is perfect for, because there's really not one size fits all solutions that work in every place. There's so many different needs. And with India, there's not necessarily just one way to do things correctly. There's not one company. There's many different ways and many different problems, many different partnerships. And so super excited to see both the diversity and the richness and what 5G can unleash and make possible, mapped on top of the diversity and the richness and the innovation and the creativity that Reliance and Intel can bring to digital India. And that will then unleash what the world is going to replicate and want to imitate.
Okay, so Anish, taking from that, what do you think are the opportunities lying immediately ahead for Intel and Reliance Jio to be able to shape the future of the country and change people's lives?
So my thoughts would be that, first of all, again, if I have to summarize 5G, it is like full coverage, 10 GB of 10 GB over of 10 Gbps of data speed, operating over 100 devices in a specific area with 4.9 accessibility and less than a millisecond latency rates. That is what I would define a 5G, and I think enough opportunity, which I think I have spoken, Nivruti has spoken, Irina has spoken. There are tremendous opportunities. All we have to do is put our heads down, identify what is something which is very, very relevant, and I believe there are several use cases which we have discussed, and we believe that those are the areas where we need to really work on. And it is an exciting time. So I would definitely look forward in this space to see what all partnership, what all things are going to happen, and specifically how we are going to embrace and go and provide services to our customers, to our value add to our customers is what I would be looking at. And certainly with Intel, there's a lot more to do.
So, Nivruti, closing comments from you. What are the immediate opportunities, and how different is the new 5G era going to look like in 2022 versus where we are today?
So I believe that 5G is the absolute basic technology which will be required for every single vertical that we can imagine for tomorrow. Whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is e-retail. So 5G is like the electricity that will enable all these verticals. Now, for a country like ours, I think what is important, and somebody had already asked this question, we have 63 million MSMEs, and really 60 million of them are the micro. They do not have the kind of resources. So how do we enable them? Cloud-like technology is very critical, where everybody talked about. It's like pay as you go, where you don't have to worry about infrastructure, maintenance, updates, etc. So cloud technology is going to be very important. With the cloud technology, we have to enable cloud native. We have to enable virtualization. All these virtualizations are software-based technologies where you can run many applications in different containers or different virtual machines. I think that's very, very important for India, because that will be available as a service. And then on top of that, I think India has an opportunity to lead in AI. We have shown, national level platforms. We skipped generation of technologies like credit card. We moved from cash to digital wallet. I really believe AI is a technology which has, a full opportunity within India to have India lead in many, many segments and, show it to the world the power that India has with its people and its population and its internet.
Absolutely. So, Kiran, closing comments from you to summarize the last 1 hour, and taking from the point that Nivriti was making. My question specifically for you is: how is 5G essentially going to change our economy and take us to the new world that we talk about?
Is that we will all be pleasantly surprised by how digitization transforms India and the pace at which that will happen. We have always believed in Reliance that India is a supply constrained market. We have a very youthful population. The median age of our 1.3 billion population is still below 30. So that we are brimming with that youthful enthusiasm, the talent, the creativity, the entrepreneurial spirit. It's all here. And very, very hearteningly, what we are finding is that we are leapfrogging technologies. And in a way, rather than following the technical progress or the course, how technology progresses in the rest of the world, we are straight away jumping sometimes even ahead of where the world is. I think just the reference to UPI was just made. Or if you take a look at how Aadhaar has happened, if you take a look at the series of things that India Stack is rolling out, including a very mature consent framework, and now we are talking about a very mature data privacy framework. If you look at many of those evolved thoughts, it is actually getting established first at scale in India, and then it becomes a case study for the rest of the world. We will see more and more of that, and all the technologies that we have mentioned so far, including 5G, is really fuel to that fire, and India will really surprise everybody. Although now we expect surprises, but I think we will still be surprised at the pace at which the transformation will happen. The adoption of digital solutions will happen, especially in our small and medium sectors, and just the progress and the prosperity that we will see as a result of that, that will be a pleasant surprise for all of us. And that's what really excites us. That's what keeps us motivated and excited to come to work every day. And that's really what excites us also with the partnerships with very, very capable companies like Intel.
Okay, so India will definitely surprise the world, and that's something I think all the panelists agree. And I think everyone's on the same page when it comes to what the experiences have been of the last 3 odd months. In adversities there are opportunities, and the fact of the matter is that we have been ahead of the curve, and we're actually coming to the audience from the comfort of our homes. That just shows how far India and Indian telecom and Indian communications sector has come. Kiran, Nivriti, Anish, Lynn, thank you so much for staying with us patiently and joining us. And audience, thank you so much for joining in this discussion where we try to give you a purview of various aspects of 5G that you need to understand, de-jargonize it as much as we could. Thank you so much for staying with us. That's a wrap on this very special conversation. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.